GameQuest is brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products, organic remedies to a variety of ailments. Visit one of the 4 locations located in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location in Knoxville at 8018 Kingston Pike, right across the street from the Trader Joe's. Smoky Mountain Organics features the best brands in CBD products, bath and body care items, organic teas, and has the largest selection of plant therapy essential oils in Tennessee, plus many, many more items. And if you go to one of their 4 in-store locations and mention VolQuest, you're going to get 15% off your total purchase price. That is 15% off your total purchase price just by mentioning VolQuest. Your GameQuest South Alabama edition, it begins now.
It's another game day for Tennessee football and first-year head coach Josh Heupel. Get in the know with GameQuest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric Cain. GameQuest starts now.
Welcome into GameQuest. Tennessee taking on South Alabama later on tonight under the lights at Neyland Stadium, 7:30 kick. This should be a nooner for all I care. It could be an afternooner, but it is a 7:30 kick, but that's okay. Tennessee looking to pick up bowl eligibility here tonight with win number 6. Ben McKee, I am Eric Cain. Thanks so much for starting your game day with us. Ben, it's, man, this is the second to we only got one more of these after this, dude, for football season at least. And it's come and gone in a hurry.
Greetings, Eric Cain, and happy game day. It is baffling how quickly the season has gone by. It's the same feeling every year. Every November, I look up and think, man, how is the season already over? But here we are. Tennessee should win tonight against the mighty South Alabama Jaguars. They should beat Vanderbilt next Saturday as well and head on off to a bowl game.
Yep, that is the plan. I don't think anybody's really expecting anything other than that. It's just kind of what happens in between the lines during the game that is yet to be determined, and that's why you play the game. Not gonna sugarcoat this. I think everybody listening kind of understands what it is. South Alabama tonight, not a whole lot of meat on the bone. We've talked about it. We will talk about it, but we're gonna hit on a couple of things here in this episode of GameQuest. First, Ben, let's talk a little recruiting. Tennessee, 3 consecutive games, home games to end the season. It was a big recruiting weekend last weekend. Only 1 official visitor. A ton of unofficials here this weekend as well. Of course, Justin Williams, the running back target for Tennessee, who decommitted from West Virginia. He will be back this week. That's big. That's something to watch on. Outside of Justin Williams, there's a lot of other notables, but none other than Joshua Josephs. Tennessee continues to try to close in on him as well.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Kane, but I was surprised by the guys that are going to be here this weekend. I wasn't expecting an extensive recruiting list. I mean, I figured they'd get some young guys in here this weekend, and they are. Julian Davis, Jaden Davis, Tennessee commit Jack Luttrell, White Lightning himself, Alex Cunningham, Justin Green, Whit Weeks, what a name, and fellow Tennessee commit Brian Grant. He'll be here. Joe Crocker, an in-state lineman. He'll be here. I figured that there would be guys like that here this weekend, but I didn't think Joshua Josephs was going to show up for South Alabama in the cold. I didn't think that Justin Williams was going to make back-to-back appearances this weekend. And then how about Tyree West? You had not mentioned him just yet, but that's a massive recruit that is going to be here, both literally and figuratively. But Joshua Josephs, I think that's a great sign for Tennessee. As Austin mentioned in the war room, it does seem like it's more of a Tennessee-Kentucky battle right now than Michigan being firmly in the mix. Seems like Michigan is third, and he's been up to Kentucky quite a bit this year as well. He's been up to Tennessee several times dating back to the summer, so that's a big one to get on campus this weekend because, as we can see week in and week out, Tennessee needs help at that linebacker spot, and I think they kind of envision him maybe playing a hybrid role, coming off the edge a little bit, playing inside if need be. I mean, either spot, inside, outside, Tennessee needs guys there, and Joshua Josephs is at the top of that board.
Yeah, it's about, if he were to come to Tennessee, it's about where can he see the field first? It's quick. Where does Tennessee need the most immediate help? So yeah, but he's a guy that can do both. I mean, it's to your point about surprise at the list of guys coming in. I mean, it's time. I mean, the early signing period is just weeks away. Like some of these guys got some things to figure out, and so Tennessee's doing all they can to get these guys back on campus, and job well done. Guys like Josephs, guys like Williams, guys like Cheeks, who is a North Carolina commit, but Tennessee, Sebastian Cheeks, Tennessee, and Michigan State
Probably
are trying
my favorite new Tennessee target.
lure him away. Yeah, I talked to him like back in the summer, and when I saw that name being floated around here again recently, I was like, oh, that's a name I don't forget. Jeffrey Mba is coming back on campus. I talked to him last week, and he said that he wanted to be here for an official, and it looks like or he's not going to be on campus. Excuse me. He will be here for an official the 1st of December. So I think that's a good sign for Tennessee. He dropped his top 10. Christian Harris is a name we haven't brought up. He isn't going to be on campus, but he releases top 3: Nebraska, Florida, and Tennessee. I mean, we're going back to the 90s here. I saw that joke floating around, but in talking with Christian Harris after he dropped that top 3, and he loves what Heupel's doing here. He likes how Tennessee's on the rise. He likes the relationships that Banks and Martinez have developed with him. He likes how they have developed players and all that. Florida, he told me that the Florida was a dream school growing up. So I know there's a lot of disarray going on there in Gainesville, but honestly, right now, I know that they made note in the war room that, it might be some close in feel like that might be a bother. The way I interpret it, it might not be that much of a bother. So we'll have to see, Florida, Tennessee, Nebraska with the top 3 for Christian Harris. But things are starting to heat up a little bit in recruiting as, again, the early signing day just a couple of weeks away. But this weekend, again, will be big for Tennessee to try to put their best foot forward with some of those guys, like we mentioned, Justin Williams and Joshua Josephs, and of course, Tyree West.
Yeah, and that's the one that I'm really watching this weekend. Can Tennessee actually make a move for Tyree West, who committed to Georgia, not committed? I can't tell.
He had been committed for a long, long time.
Yes, and has been shown a lot of love to Florida State. FSU is believed to be the favorite, so we'll see if Tennessee can make a move there. That would obviously be a huge pickup for Tennessee if they're able to land him at some point. But they got to make a move on him first. So I think Joshua Josephs and Justin Williams, those guys being back on campus this weekend is a great sign. And then can Tennessee make a move with Tyree West? Those are the recruiting storylines that I'm watching for this weekend.
Someone tagged us in a thread Friday morning. I don't know if it's been answered yet, but I saw it just before we started getting on here. Michael Caraway Jr.'s another JUCO defensive back. Tennessee is trying to find immediate help. Okay, I mean, seriously, Keontae Scott was on campus last week. Someone asked about Caraway Jr. committing to Southern Miss just a couple of days ago. I mean, Ben, I feel like if an SEC school comes knocking and is really trying to bring him along, I don't think that would stand in the way whatsoever. So someone was asking if that could be a hang up. I don't see it that way. We'll have to see, but certainly Tennessee looking for some immediate help. But yeah, those are the big storylines. Of course, we'll have tons and tons of recruiting content Sunday and Monday and all next week to kind of wrap up what's going on this weekend in recruiting. But South Alabama comes to town. The mighty Jaguars. Jake Bentley, quarterback, has beaten Tennessee 3 times, formerly of South Carolina, formerly of Utah. A torn MCL, was back at practice earlier this week in a limited fashion. But, Ben, even with people I've spoken to Friday morning, I don't think the expectation is Jake Bentley's going to play. So it's going to be more of a dual threat guy in Desmond Trotter.
Yeah, it'll be Desmond Trotter, not to be confused with Desmond Ritter. His game does not look anything like Desmond Ritter's game. I mean, to me, Kane, just to be super broad, this game comes down to if Tennessee is interested in playing football. I mean, that's what this game comes down to. And you look at them from a statistical standpoint offensively, and they're not very impressive scoring offense. It's 26.4 points per game, and that's good enough for 4th in the Sun Belt, but 76th overall in the country. And that's with Jake Bentley at quarterback as well, not the backup. So that's just one statistic that really stands out. They allow a lot of tackles for losses as well, which obviously bodes well in Tennessee's favor. So
Who has lacked that statistical category the last 2 weeks after being after leading the nation. I think what was it after the Alabama game, I believe, heading into the bye week.
Yes, they were leading the nation or second in the nation after the Alabama game, and then a couple teams caught up to them while Tennessee was on a bye, and then they played teams that have good offensive fronts and don't allow a lot of tackles for loss and came back down to earth. But I expect them to regain that form, if you want to call it that, and we'll talk about that during our bold predictions. But this offense is just not very talented in terms of competing against an SEC team. They have a good receiver that could potentially make some plays, but ultimately, all three phases of the game comes down to what Tennessee shows up. How much does Tennessee show up for? It's going to be cold. The stadium's not going to be that packed. I mean, I'm sure they'll announce 90, 95,000, but 70, 75,000 is what I would expect. So they're going to have to bring their own energy. And quite frankly, Kane, I expect Tennessee to show up and be ready to play. The message all week from Josh Heupel has been finish the season out strong, gain bowl eligibility. And I don't think that this is something that you have to worry about with this Tennessee football team. Showing up and being ready to play hasn't been an issue all year, and I don't think it will be tonight either.
Yeah, that receiver you mentioned, Jalen Tolbert, 65 receptions, 1,140 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. He averages 17.5 yards per reception. With Jake Bentley likely out of this football game, I mean, he is the lone playmaker on offense. He's a good player. He just got invited to the Reese's Senior Bowl. He will likely look to get drafted come spring. But, with your quarterback out, it's kind of hard. They got to find different ways to get in the football. And, it's funny. I lined up earlier in the week to speak with Craig Stevenson. He covers. He's the lone, excuse me, he's the lone beat writer that covers South Alabama. And so I was like, I'm going to get him on line this up. By the time I got to him, every other publication in town had already talked to him. But nonetheless, he was really, really high on Jalen Tolbert and said, hey, he's a good player. But, with Bentley out, it's kind of hard for him to get as involved as normal. So we will have to see. But and I'm with you too. Tennessee's offense is set up in a way to where I think you often see times, teams play down to their opponent or, however you want to phrase it. The way Tennessee operates, Tennessee can be off on offense, but it's not like Tennessee can just go out and play down. It's so fast and you don't have a lot of time to sit around and think about it and everything. It's just, it's a different animal, I guess. And I hope that makes sense. I just feel like Tennessee's a team offensively built to where it's the same thing every single week. It doesn't matter who's out there. You're going balls to the wall and you're going and doing your thing. Right now, defensively is another story. You can get caught up and looking in the backfield and all that type of stuff too, which by the way, South Alabama motions a ton. And so that's something Matthew Butler spoke on earlier this week about having to keep your keys. But I'm with you, man. It's a game to where Tennessee should dominate. I expect Tennessee to dominate. I heard some chatter earlier in the week, from people saying, "Oh, South Alabama is a lot better than anybody's going to give them credit for." I don't buy that at all. 5-5 team, 1-3 in their last 4, hasn't won on the road since week 2. Okay, I mean, they're, in my opinion, just not a good football team.
I think they're a good team for their level of competition.
I wouldn't even go that far. I'll say this: they are stout defensively. They're one of the best defenses in the Sun Belt.
They are, and even some of their defensive statistics stand out nationally. Like the third down defense ranks 13th nationally. Their total defense ranks 17th nationally. I know this is a defensive specific stat, but they're 28th as a team in turnover margin. So they have some things that rank well nationally. My point in saying that they're good for their level of football is that they've lost a lot of close football games that could have gone either way. And I lived in Huntsville for a number of years, as people who follow my work are aware. And heck, if you've listened to this podcast since the start of the season, I've mentioned that I went to high school in Huntsville, and I've been around the South Alabamas and the UABs and the Troys. That's a good level of football. It's not, a bunch of scrubs running around. So I think the fact that they've lost some close games, that they are better than what their record indicates. But it's not a team that Tennessee should be in a one score game in the fourth quarter with. That's for sure. I mean, go look at what Sanford did, another state of Alabama team. Look what they did to Florida, and part of that
Yep.
is Florida's mess that it has going on, and I don't at all expect that to happen to Tennessee, and I don't at all think that South Alabama is a threat to beat Tennessee or make it a close game. But I do think that they're a solid football team for their level of competition.
Yeah, they do a good job of creating turnovers. They got 22 takeaways on the season, 14 interceptions. Yeah, this defense, I mean, it's solid, but it hasn't, nor will it ever, at least this season, see an offense that operates like Tennessee, and of course, probably not as good as Tennessee. They play a lot of players defensively. It's a multiple scheme front. They swarm to the football. Their head coach is a former, I believe, Indiana defensive coordinator, as well as the defensive coordinator at South Alabama a couple of years ago.
The fake Cain.
Yeah, the fake Cain. There you go. They play a whole lot of linebackers. They're big and bulky on the outside. They play a lot of guys in the secondary. So they rotate in guys. They keep them fresh, and the results have been pretty good so far defensively. I just think that it's going to be a challenge. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Tennessee's paying them to come here and lose, and so it's just one of those games. But we've heard some of this from the fans this week, and I agree. It's like you can't ever assume anything because Georgia State. Remember what happened there, but that's not going to happen again. Knocking on the wood.
And
a wood and even here.
What's that?
I'm knocking on the wood.
Yeah, knock on the wood. I mean, I don't even think it's going to be a close win like Butch Jones had over South Alabama in 2013 in his first season, when you needed a Brian Randolph interception in the back of the end zone to win that football game. So I don't expect this game to be close, and it all boils down to Tennessee being ready to play come 7:30. Yep.
So who will be out there for Tennessee? It's not like Tennessee's saving anybody for anything, right? Except for a red shirt, maybe. You got Vanderbilt next week. Then you'll have a bowl game. I get that. But, if you're healthy, you're going to play, right? So we don't think Todd Evans is going to be healthy enough to play. Don't think Javonte Payton's going to be healthy enough to play. I do believe Aaron Beasley will play. I think he's gotten better as the week's gone on. Jerome Carvin left that game late against Georgia. Looks like he's been banged up a little bit and limited a little bit this week. But, as they mentioned in the war room, it looks like he's probably going to be a go in this football game. But other guys you expect to see, right? I mean, and not like starters are not going to lose playing time just to get other guys in. At least I don't think. I mean, if the game is in hand, then you can start looking, or if you're in a spot to where you can start getting a look at some other guys who they've been waiting to play these last 2 weeks because they will redshirt. Guys like a Dominic Bailey, guys like a Bryson Eason. Both of those guys are going to play on the defensive line, I feel like, tomorrow and potentially against Vanderbilt. And those are two guys that have been getting some good reviews in practice, but they're just holding off because they've already played in a game or two, and they want to redshirt those guys. And so, we'll see about that. What about Pat Garland, the William Mohans, the Aaron Willis, who a couple of those guys might be redshirt candidates because they're special teams guys. So, we'll have to see. But I think you're going to start seeing some more guys. And then, Jalen Hyatt in the slot on offense, and probably some more Ramel Keaton.
Yeah, this is a game where Tennessee should play as many youngsters as it can. I mean, don't play Aaron Willis. Aaron Willis should not play the rest of the season. He's played in 4 games. He should be a guy that redshirts. He should not play the rest of the season. But guys like you mentioned, Bryson Eason, Dominic Bailey, they should play. Now, don't play them key snaps in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But when you're up by 3 touchdowns, which should happen, late third quarter, all of the fourth quarter is when those guys should be playing. You want to see what those guys can give you. Even older guys. It doesn't have to
Aubrey
be
Solomon
freshmen either. To Marion McDonald. No, not Aubrey Solomon. Aubrey Solomon just needs to go on and find his next venture in life.
Well, my point is he played the Tennessee Tech game. I know that was earlier in the season, but this would be the type of game to where he would get a little bit of run.
Yes, it would. And I'm sure that he will. But there are many other guys on this team that you should make an effort to get on the field this weekend. Jimmy Holiday, Jimmy Callaway. We haven't seen Jimmy Callaway since the drop against Florida, and it hasn't been because of that drop. It's been because he hasn't handled his business correctly on and off the field. Is he out of the doghouse, and can he play some snaps against South Alabama? I don't know if the coaching staff will allow him to, but it's guys like that. Jimmy Holiday as well, like I mentioned, Walker Merrill, Anderson Kobe. Like you want to get those guys run this weekend to see what you have in them. So, assuming the score goes the way that it should, this should be a game in which Tennessee's coaching staff really makes an effort to see what they have in some young guys.
You know, it's wild because coming into the season, I thought Tennessee would play a lot of receivers. And I'm glad that they went the way that they went because you found three that you can trust, three that you can depend on, and those three have lit it up. But I thought we'd see in early in the season we saw more Hyatt, who Hyatt is that fourth guy, and he gets quite a few snaps per game, but thought you'd see more Hyatt. Obviously, thought you'd see more Jimmy Callaway. Anderson Kobe is not a guy that I thought would ever be a big player in this offense, but I mean, I was watching him in camp. He had a little bit of the drop skis, but I thought he'd get a little bit more run. Man, haven't seen Anderson Kobe play hardly at all. So, these next 2 weeks, specifically the one tonight, I think is a chance you can see again a lot of these guys, the tight ends, behind. Can you see some more Miles Campbell? Can you see some Hunter Salmon? Again, this is the time. But again, Tennessee's got to take care of business from the get-go. Don't let up. And I think all the players and Josh Heupel, they've all been saying the right things all week long. Is you prepare just like you would, against Georgia for this game. You don't take any opponent lightly, yada yada yada. So we'll see how Tennessee comes out and gets started. Anything else on this game, man? I mean, I know we talked about it all week long. Anything else sticking out before we get into bold predictions?
No, but I'll go ahead and go in to my bold prediction because there is a stat that I teased earlier that I do want to mention in relation to this game, and that is the tackles for loss allowed. And South Alabama allows a lot of them. They are not good in this department. They allow 7.1 TFLs per game, 7th in the Sun Belt, 119th in the country. So my bold prediction is that once again this season, Tennessee tallies double-digit tackles for loss. Tennessee will have at minimum 10 tackles for a loss tonight against South Alabama.
Yeah, that'd be big. And again, it's what this defensive line, this front seven needs because it was so hot for so long. And then, like you said, played against some good offensive lines, the Kentuckys, the Georgias, and it's been slowed down here lately. So a nice game like this is, for that stat, those TFLs, I think that'd be good there. I'll go to the offensive end, and I think Austin put this, or maybe it was Brown, I can't remember. One of those guys put this in our game picks, story yesterday. I want to see some newness. I feel like a couple of new guys score a touchdown. Whoever said it, they said Jalen Wright. I'm going to go to the receiver ranks. I'm going to say Hyatt finds the end zone again, and I will say another newbie at receiver, whether that be a Jimmy or a Walker Merrill. I think two of the quote-unquote non-regulars, and you can kind of say Hyatt's a regular, but I'm going to loop him into this one. Two of the non-regulars get into the end zone tomorrow on offense. What was your final score prediction, Ben?
Ooh, my final score was, I hate when you ask me this every week. It was 48-17.
I was 49-13. So
yeah, 48-17. I can see their receiver, their talented receiver, breaking loose for a touchdown in Tennessee secondary, and I just think naturally they'll find a way to get another touchdown. I don't think Tennessee's defense is dominant to where it's just going to play a perfect football game, quite frankly. And then the 48 points, I kind of feel like I'm going a little higher than maybe I would like, but you start to look at South Alabama statistically and you wonder, well, why would they be able to slow down this Tennessee offense? So that's how I got to 45-17 or 48-17, sorry.
And you got to think, Desmond Trotter might get loose a time or two on third downs or something like that. So I'm with you. I mean, they're going to find the end zone once. I said twice, we'll see, or once and then a couple field goals. So, so that's a little bit of a teaser for tonight. Again, Tennessee, South Alabama. Before we call it quits here, Ben, I want to give you an opportunity and us to touch on, Tennessee basketball. The big time game coming up this afternoon in the Hall of Fame tip-off classic, of course, taking on number 5 Villanova. A great measuring stick game for Tennessee, a game where Tennessee's not where it's going to be a month from now. Of course, no team is. Tennessee's rotation still a little bit too large right now, but a great measuring stick game. It gets a good team and a really, really talented player to see kind of where you are. And I think this will be a good game. I think this is a game Tennessee can win. But man, I'm looking forward to watching this game this afternoon and seeing exactly what it's got here. This is why I love these early season tournaments. You get these matchups, and then you say, okay, this is what we can do well. This is what, from a coach's standpoint, this is what we need to work on moving forward against some quality competition.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Tennessee performs this weekend. Purdue and North Carolina will play after Tennessee, Villanova, and depending on how the two games go, Tennessee will play one of Purdue or North Carolina on Sunday as well. And Villanova, the number 5 team in the country, Purdue, the number 6 team in the country, North Carolina, the 18th best team in the country. So it's going to be a big test for Tennessee this weekend, and I'm really intrigued.
I was going to say, can I just say, growing up at Dookie, I hope Tennessee plays North Carolina and just beats the crap out of them on Sunday.
So you grew up a Duke basketball fan and not a Tennessee basketball fan?
I grew up a Duke. This is totally kidding, by the way. Grew a Duke basketball fan, a Kentucky. Well, no, I can't. Those are two. Yeah, a Yankees baseball fan. A Lake. Nah, I've got.
I got funny with the Yankees, huh?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's you. I'm describing you.
How many years have you lived in Georgia?
None.
Oh, interesting. Since you're a Braves fan, yet I'm a Yankees fan and lived 4 years in New York. Funny how that works out, right?
Considering the Braves are the team of the South. I mean, it's called Braves country for a reason. Nonetheless, I have serious ties to the Durham area. I mean, I was there all the time growing up. But anyway,
so you're an Alabama fan, a Duke basketball fan, a Texas baseball fan.
Yeah,
or Vanderbilt baseball fan, I should say.
Give me a good Premier League soccer team, and I'll say I'm a fan of that as well.
Chelsea,
big Chelsea guy as well. Nah, I hope Tennessee obviously beats Villanova, but I hope Tennessee just beats the crap out of North Carolina. That'd be great. But go continue. Didn't mean to disrupt you there with some nonsense.
It's all good. I forgive you, but I'm really intrigued about this basketball team because I don't think we know a ton about this basketball team, which sounds weird because like John Fulkerson's back and there's a bunch of other familiar names, but John Fulkerson had an all season full of injuries and he's only played in one game and he looked fine. But how does he look against Villanova, Purdue, North Carolina? Kennedy Chandler is amazing. This is his first big test in college basketball. How does he look? Olivier Camois has really showed signs of progression, development, but he hasn't played Villanova to kind of show off just how far he has come.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yes. I mean, it's like that all down the line. Santiago, Josiah, Victor, those guys all look better than they did last season, but will it translate to this big game? How does Justin Powell play in this game? How does Zakai Ziegler fare in this game? So there's a lot of question marks. Tennessee is certainly capable of winning this afternoon, but I'm just really interested to see how this team that looked good in the first 2 games of the year against Martin, against ETSU, how do they look against Villanova, North Carolina, Purdue? I think it'll be very telling.
And how does Rick Barnes manage the minutes? How does Rick Barnes manage the who's on the floor at certain points in the game? I mean, there's a lot of I mean, Ben, you know as well as anybody, there's so much flexibility with this lineup. You can go small with Josiah at the 4, like you've seen many times. You can go big with putting a lot of those guys out there. You can go shooter friendly. You can put 4. I don't want to say true point guards, but you can put 4 point guards on the court at the same time. I mean, there's so much flexibility with this lineup, and which 5 is out there. I'm just in a game like this, again against a quality opponent that went to the Sweet 16 last year, that's got a preseason All-American in Colin Gillespie, a 5th-year guy, mind you, taking advantage of that COVID year, and against a team that's picked to win the Big East again. These are some of the things I'm going to be looking for tomorrow. So, will we have every answer to these questions? Absolutely not. But that's the reason you play these type of games. I'm intrigued to see how Tennessee plays, and what is it? I think at the time of this recording, I want to say the line's 2.5 Villanova.
I haven't seen. You would know better than me.
Okay, so Villanova a slight favorite, but nonetheless. So That's what's coming up this weekend. Of course, as you mentioned, there'll be hoops on Sunday as well. Tons of recruiting coverage. And most importantly, the Jaguars, Tennessee, and South Alabama tonight at Neyland Stadium. Final thoughts on this weekend, everything you got going on, and anything else, Ben? No, you got nothing?
My AirPods disconnected and connected to my phone when I tried to look up the line.
That's the beautiful thing about a podcast. I can either leave this in or I can edit it out. Who knows what I'll do.
I say you leave it in. I say you leave it in. Just what'd you ask me?
Anything final closing remarks on all that's going on? It's kind of a busy weekend here for Tennessee athletics. Any closing remarks?
No, nothing really to add. Just should be a fun day. A dual game day. You get 2 Tennessee games in one day. I'm glad the South Alabama game is at 7:30, so we can have our fair share of time devoted to basketball, and should be a really fun test. And it'll be fun to see Tennessee play 2 games in 2 days as well. Come back and play a good Purdue team, a North Carolina team that struggled with some underwhelming opponents. So curious to see how they play this weekend as well. But just a really fun weekend. To me, this is my favorite part of the year, when you have the sports overlapping. This and in the spring, like when basketball's ending and baseball is starting, or beginning of the fall when baseball is ending and football is starting.
The old crossover season is what you're saying.
I love crossover season. I'm a big sports nut, as people know. So it should be a fun day. And Tennessee football obviously going to become bowl eligible, and that is a huge accomplishment considering where this team was over the offseason.
Yep, couldn't agree more. So Tennessee looks to pick up win number 6 tonight over South Alabama. We will have you covered with the game thread. Of course, 4 takeaways, remarks from Josh Heupel and players, and all of our comments, 2-minute drill, post-game pod, all that type of stuff, recruiting content all day tomorrow at volquest.com. GameQuest South Alabama edition. It is brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products and organic remedies to a variety of ailments. Visit one of the 4 locations in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location, it's right here in Knoxville, 8018, across the street from the Trader Joe's on Kingston Pike. Smoky Mountain Organics features the best brands in CBD products, bath and body care items, organic teas, and have the largest selection of plant therapy essential oils in Tennessee, plus many more items. And if you go to any of the in-store locations and you mention VolQuest, they're going to give you 15% off your total purchase price. Just mention VolQuest. Enjoy game day, everybody, and we will talk to you throughout the rest of the nights. This has been GameQuest, your South Alabama edition.
You've been listening to GameQuest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric King. Stay dialed in to volquest.com for complete game day coverage. This has been GameQuest, a VolQuest production.